Well, we're here again. This is part 2 of an incredible episode of Matt Blanchard. You can see if you're watching this that we're in a new setting. We're hanging out in, what do we call it? The dugout?
Yeah, the dugout.
Today's easy flowing. We got a cigar. We got some Macallan. It's a fun conversation. If you loved part 1, you're going to love part 2 even more. Stay tuned. Give us a like and a comment and enjoy the episode. Promised at the end of last episode to do a part 2. So we are recording just 3 days later than our last episode, and we thought, let's do something a little bit more fun and casual for this. So this is a first new studio here at Bloom 4 Media. I'm excited to be in the, what do you call this, Blake?
This is our garage studio.
Let's call it something cooler, like the man
dugout.
cave.
The dugout.
Yeah, the dugout. There you go.
The dugout.
God, Blake, where's the branding? And also we've got Blake on the mic, which is cool. Blake is one of the owners here of Blue 4 Media. He's one of the people, him and his wife Mallory, who make this all possible for us. Super thankful for them to open up their house to us and let us record in their amazing studios. And then Blake is a connoisseur of cigars. And so what you can see here is I've got this nice premium, is it called Oliva?
Oliva. Yep.
Oliva. And I've got a beautiful crown cut on this bad boy. So very exciting. It's actually Matt's first cigar.
It is, and I'm liking it.
Yeah.
I am, and you and I are smoking the same cigar.
Yes.
And I was educated on how, and
Yeah, got
I
a
think
whole
I'm doing
course.
it the right way.
Oh, you guys are pros already.
So Blake, thank you so much.
And then we've got this nice Macallan 12 Highland single malt Scotch whiskey. It's a sherry oak cask. I usually don't like Macallan, but the sherry oak cask, thank you to Marcus Zitting for that gift on his podcast. And it's a gift that pays twice, so that's even better. But yeah, it's good. I like it. My dad smoked cigars my whole life. I haven't done it often. In fact, the only time I've smoked a cigar 3 times in the last year. This one, once with Blake in Scottsdale, and then I went to a hospitality event in Vegas, and this old lady was hand rolling them.
Oh,
And
really?
so it was like, you don't not do that. You know,
Wow.
You got to take them up on that. So
Dude, yeah, you don't
That-
turn that down.
that was a cool experience. So Kyle and I actually walked to the Bellagio fountains and just smoked the cigar at the fountains with all the tourists. It was pretty fun. And then there was like a guy selling beers out of a cooler right behind us for like $2 a beer, the best deal in Vegas. So
For sure.
yeah,
For sure.
absolutely. It was basically free beer. So that was nice.
If you're not gambling, I mean, when you're gambling, the beers cost even more than that.
They certainly do. But it makes you feel like it's free.
Right. Yeah, they do. They got it figured out.
So that's nice. So jumping back into where we left off. So if you were listening to part 1, then you kind of have a good understanding of Matt's background. And if you're just jumping in, I recommend go back and listen to part 1 because it is just gold. In fact, Matt and I were saying like we could have done a full Joe Rogan
Easy.
3 hours, no problem. But the studio had another booking, and so we had to hightail out of there. But too much good stuff to not come back.
You know when you vibe with somebody and it's just
Instant.
it's easy.
Yeah, it was just so fast. I told my wife, Megan, I was like, normally I have my list of questions that I ask guests, and they're really just like in the moment if the guest is done talking.
Right.
Because some people just conversate really easily, and some you ask a question and they just answer it and they stop.
Right.
There's no elaboration. There's no conversation. So occasionally you've got to have a question ready in the event that you hit that dead spot, especially when you're interviewing people you don't necessarily know.
Right.
And with you, I literally asked a question to start the conversation and a question to end it. And that was it.
Well, yeah, the one thing I'm good at is speaking.
The gift of
That's
gab.
what I do. Yeah, I got the, well, like a cigar, you know, I'm not afraid to try something.
Yeah.
Because even if it goes badly, you still got to, I mean, I'm in a wheelchair. I got some pretty good stories, right? So, but this is nice. This is really nice. Thank you.
Speaking of the visual aesthetics of Matt with his wheelchair, I notice you always have that Inspire shirt. Is that your brand?
That's my brand.
That's your brand. Okay, so tell me about that.
So it's I Inspire.
Okay.
So if you're wearing it, then your obligation when you're wearing this shirt is that you inspire.
Okay.
In one way or another.
I love
I've got
that.
the same thing on my wrist here. Like I know you've got your band.
Yeah.
as well. It's the I Inspire.
Nice.
And then if you remember from our first one, the dig in, dig deep, and get it done.
Oh, yeah.
My dad asked me.
From your dad. Yep.
Yep. So that's Pop.
That's like
Pops.
the
Love it.
tagline.
Yeah.
I love that.
So everybody's got to dig in, dig deep, and and get it done.
So as a speaker, do you always wear your Inspire shirt when you're talking?
Always.
Always.
Yep,
And like,
so-
and if you're going to be on something like this that's videotaped,
Yep.
always repping it.
Yep.
I love
Always
that. That's
repping
smart. That's branding.
Thanks.
Hey, real quick, let me, Matt, I'm gonna have you just tilt towards Cody more, so you're
Like this, like
speaking.
this?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
And then you can pull that stool
Okay.
up wherever you need it. So, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, dude, this is nice. Like the that and
And the scotch, yeah, it's great, isn't it? So,
Well, Matt's smoking his cigar. Look at that thing. Look at the burn he's got on it already.
yeah. And so,
Lungs of a champion,
dude, we don't screw around, man. If you're gonna do it, let's do it.
I
and
guess.
hold up your ash. How much you got there? You got about an inch. You know, Cody's going great. Yeah, so you're smoking fast, which is fine. If you're enjoying it, go. But what you do is you just roll that on the edge, the interior edge
Okay.
of the lip of the. Yeah, just roll it.
Like,
And that should-
ooh.
See how that just pops right on. Now hold it up again so we can see it.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's clean. So now you should have a glowing cherry in there. Now that next puff's going to be pretty good for you.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Lighting up real nice.
Like I'm a rookie, but getting her done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're learning how to inspire and how to smoke
Inspire and smoke. Absolutely.
and drink.
Yeah. I think we all have an obligation to inspire people.
Yeah, for sure.
I think there's a lack of it. I think a lot of people are going through, well, everybody's going through something. And here's the thing. I'm lucky that I'm in a wheelchair because I get everybody's A game. Everybody sees my challenge.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you the last time I got a door for myself. Can't tell you. The cheese at the supermarket is out of my reach. The employees know it. I go to the Albertsons right there
Yeah.
on Sunset.
Uh-huh.
And if anybody sees me over by the cheese, boom, some random kids, and it's awesome. man.
Always helping out.
Oh.
What's interesting is saying an obligation to inspire. So obviously, social media provides a platform for so many people to do that. But I think there's a competition of genuine inspiration and then I don't want to say a scam because that seems too harsh, but people are just trying to capitalize on someone who needs to be inspired.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, those people who are selling programs or packages for money, purposely going after. In fact, I just saw a thing this weekend about like an AI girlfriend targeted to those sad, lonely men where it's like, oh, you can just pay for this and then you'll get like this AI girlfriend that you can chat to and all of that, just further isolating them. Because if they have that need met, then they're less likely to get real human interaction because this need is being met.
I think it's an oxymoron that it's called social media and where it really isolates so many people. And then you're stuck in your house and like you're on the gram and you're seeing everybody's highlight reel and nobody's life's a highlight reel.
Well, and how do you balance? Because so the goal, right? So for me, I never had social media before I started this whole venture because I just knew like, okay, well, this is where the eyeballs are. So that's where I have to be. Right. But if it wasn't for that, it's not a space I'd necessarily be active in. But then how do you balance? Because you said like people look at it and they're just in their scroll. And oftentimes the message you're trying to send, I feel like can then make someone depressed because instead of seeing it and being like, oh, that's inspiring.
Yeah.
They look at it and think, oh, why aren't I doing that thing? So how do you balance that for yourself?
Here it is. It's the grind. So you got both Blake and Cody. You're both grinding, and myself. We're grinding right now. And you see the guys that have made it. Boy, I'm gonna butcher who. Not David. David Goggins is out there too. He's not afraid. I think people who are authentic,
I think you're right. I think that's the key.
and vulnerable. Now, David Goggins for me, I mean, more power to him, but he does not inspire me, man. He just doesn't.
Yeah.
He's too much of a hard ass and, hey, life has been this hard and buck up, little guy.
Yeah.
And let's go again. Running. I mean, I tip my hat to him because he does some
Yeah, he's an animal.
crazy shit. But I think, like we were talking last time, gentle, in my opinion, gentle is strong.
Yeah.
Vulnerability, and especially in a males group, we were talking earlier about what Eric had going.
Yeah, the program.
You get a bunch of males together. I think that's what's lacking is a safe place for males to come and be vulnerable with one another. Because we're so. I mean, I think my job is to protect my family, provide for my family. And if I'm not doing those things or feel like I'm falling short, then I'm going to beat myself up.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to have you, Blake, other people that I can come to and say, yo, I'm falling short. Or someone that'll keep me accountable for falling short.
Yeah, how many people have someone that they would go to with that? What's interesting is even as you say that, I'm thinking of myself, it's like, would I really, if I was struggling, would I openly go to someone and say that? I probably wouldn't, because I wouldn't want to burden them with my burden.
Okay. And I get that all the time, man.
And that's not right. That's not the right answer for the listeners. I'm not advocating for that behavior. But if I just think of who I am as an individual, if I'm going through something challenging, my initial thought would be like, I'm not going to share that because I don't want the people I love and care about to be burdened with my burden.
Right. It's so true. It's so true. And I think we can create safe places for men to come and congregate and like true safe places. And people are listening right now. I'm like, yeah, well, where? Well, there's a need for that. And I think this has started something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. And so interesting too about the social media thing, because you talk about being authentic and like that's how it works. And then it's like the interesting thing is, I think most, like you can choose to perceive things however you want. So you can look at someone on social media and say they're authentically trying to do good, or you can look at them and say this asshole's trying to show off. Right. It's up to you, because none of us really know who that person is, right? And so I guess it's really a matter of perception and just believing. It goes back to like the Four Agreements. You ever read that book?
Oh, bro, yeah.
Don Miguel Ruiz, right? And so I think one of the Four Agreements is I can't, I'm going to butcher this, but I think it's think the best of other people's intentions or something like that.
Don't take anything personal.
Don't take anything personal.
Do your best. So always do your best. Don't ever take anything personal. Be a man of your word. Always keep your word. And I cannot remember the third one or the fourth one. But yeah, the Four Agreements. If you haven't read the Four Agreements, it's simple, quick read.
Super fast.
Yeah.
One of the most important books I think anyone can read. Okay, here we are. Okay. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Oh, don't make assumptions. That was kind of what I was thinking. And always do your best, because it's the assumption of like, oh, this guy's an asshole or this gal's an asshole or they're trying to show off. You're creating an assumption, and I think all the listeners know what happens when you make an assumption, right?
Eric said it to me today.
Yep. You make an ass out of you and me, and so I think that it's just important to do that, because I struggle with that too. As I'm because when I started, it was like I didn't have the podcast. I was having to create content. The podcast makes it really easy, because now I'm just going to take a clip of you and I talking and post that.
Right.
And it's easy, and it's also a little bit lazy, because I'm not as intentional with my content as I could be. But then I always struggle making content. And maybe I guess that's something I just got to get through, is because I am truly making it authentically, but yet I'm afraid is maybe the word. Like I'm just not doing it. I don't know what's holding me back. Maybe fear, or I don't know, but I don't do it.
Fear,
I need
false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
You heard that before?
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, Blake, let's hear it.
I think you're holding back on it because you're afraid to be inauthentic.
That could be true.
Because when I sit down in front of a camera with a script and I'm like, here's 3 things you can do to like, keep your butthole clean or whatever. I don't know, whatever. I just doesn't feel like that's how I would present that information. So I don't know if that's something that resonates.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's nice about the podcast is this is authentic as it gets, because there's no script.
Right.
I know what you're going to say. You don't know what I'm going to say. It's just real, right? So that makes it really convenient. But I do think there's a point to, if you really want to succeed in that social media sphere, is having more content, producing more content. But I always find myself struggling, because it's like you see someone who inspires you, whoever that is, and like, oh, I like what they did. But then you don't want to be them. You want to be you. But we're always inspired or motivated by other people. So then it's like, it's that balance of being myself while trying to imitate someone else's success.
Yeah. So what inspires you? Is that a loaded?
That's a great fucking question. What inspires me?
Do I inspire you?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Why?
Because you're overcoming obstacles. Like perseverance inspires me. I think people following their passion inspires me. And success in whatever version someone wants. But like if I see my friends building something that I know they care about, that's inspirational to me, Yeah. So I think being driven is inspirational.
What inspires me is seeing somebody get their ass kicked and how they respond to getting their ass kicked. So in baseball, my son played high school, 2-time state champion and a runner up, and then went on to play college. And when he was being looked at by colleges, the coaches weren't worried. They knew that what kind of a player he was in the field, and but when he struck out, how did he act in his failures?
Yeah.
So that's what inspires me is when people are getting their ass kicked. Someone's going, a single mom that has gone through a divorce or lost their husband, or so you talk about trials and how that's what inspires me. Not when you're on top. Not that. That's great, and you got your cheerleader, but I'd rather be on the ground floor with you.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about like Alex Hormozy, what inspires me is what he built, not what he has now. Right? It was building his business through the gyms and like sleeping on a gym mat and like grinding and making it work. That's what's inspirational. Like what he's doing now is less inspirational because now he has all the means in the world. So in some sense, it's a little bit easier, right? That story's not as fun as the other story.
Now, I'm sure you're familiar with Tyler Wilkinson and his stories. Yes or no?
Wilkinson Lighting. Wilkinson.
Okay, so here
the guys here locally.
Yeah, so Tyler Wilkinson, he's a quadriplegic. He was an unbelievable athlete down here in St. George that also was in a car accident and became paralyzed from the neck down, though. And he had just signed a scholarship to play for Dixie State in football and in baseball.
Okay.
And he was an absolute freak. So when he got hurt, Steve Young came and did the when you narrate. He narrated Tyler's story. Steve Young.
Oh wow.
And if you've never seen it, and Tyler, he hates this, but it's called Tyler, A Real Hero. And it will show you where he was just on top of the world, unstoppable freak of an athlete. And all of that got ripped from him. And now he's a very successful businessman, has, I think, 5 kids, a set of twins.
Is that the same Wilkinson Lighting family or different?
Yeah.
Oh,
same
it is.
Wilkinson,
Okay.
Wilkinson Electric.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Oh, Wilson. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So it's those kind of things. Like when you're on top and you get your ass kicked, how do you respond?
What's interesting about that is then if you are at your perceived top, then how do you inspire?
How'd you get there? So show me a hero or a someone you're inspired by, and they have an absolute travesty that has happened in their life.
Yeah, or an origin story. I mean, even David Goggins, his story is being fat, not being able to make the seals and having to grind through it, right?
Badass, right?
Because if David Goggins was never fat, his story's probably not as good. If he was just a stud his whole life, then it's a way less compelling story. What's interesting about David Goggins, so he spoke at Limitless in Salt Lake, and he's exactly in person as you expect him to be if you'd read his books, like just the fucking same. So he comes out on stage, they've got the hype music as they do at events, you know. He's like, turn that shit off. There's no fucking music in life. Like, you don't need music to get excited. You got yourself, you know? And I was just like, man, interesting. Like, can you not enjoy anything? Can you not have 15 seconds of like, this is cool? You just got to be a badass every second of them. And so that for me was a little bit like, okay, I guess is he just being authentically true to his brand because he knows his brand is like, I'm a badass no matter what? Or is that just who he is all the time?
He might be that guy all the time.
He fucking might be. I read the book Living with the Seal. It's one of my all-time favorite books. If you like to read, if you like listening to books, I'm sure it's a great audible. And so Jesse Eitzler, the coconut water guy, he's married to the lady who created Spanx. Unbelievably. He's the big calendar guy, the guy who makes the calendars for the whole year, all about planning. He had, before David Goggins was David Goggins, had him come live with him. A Navy SEAL stranger come live in his house with him and said, I just want to like be a badass. And so David Goggins would wake him up at 5 o'clock in the morning and be like, all right, let's go to the Central Park. We're running in shorts, no shirts, no gloves. It's snowing outside. 8 miles. Let's go. And he had to do whatever David said.
Wow.
And it is the most entertaining. To me, it's better than any of David Goggins' books. It is like, I literally laughed out loud. It's an amazing book.
I think you can't, not everybody can be David Goggins and go on and be this badass.
No.
But what everybody can do is keep the commitments to themselves. So in my life, I have goals and aspirations, and then I have non-negotiables. And my non-negotiables are the things I do every day, whether I want to or not. It's who I am. Every morning I wake up, I do my affirmations, I do what I'm grateful for. I make one phone call or a text to somebody that whoever that somebody is that I'm thinking of, and then I go get in 35-degree water. I ice plunge every single morning.
You do.
Every.
How long have you been doing that?
Boy, a little over a year. Yeah. And
35 degrees is cold as shit.
Dude, it's
Isn't
so
it
cold.
supposed to be like between 40 and 60?
Yeah, they say anything under 50 is so when you cold plunge, your body thinks you're dying.
Yeah.
So your liver sends out what they call cold shock proteins.
Yeah, right.
And they scour your body of oxidation, your lymphatic system. I haven't been sick. I haven't had a sniffle in over a year.
Wow.
Because your lymphatic system drains immediately. And then your testosterone goes up, your skin. I mean, and here's another crazy thing is there's no amount of cardio. You could get on an elliptical or the treadmill or the stairs to nowhere for all day long. And there's no amount of cardio that will amount to 5 minutes in 50-degree water. Because now your body's shivering. Because, yeah, and I could go all into this, but, so the measure of a calorie is how much energy it takes to raise 1 cubic centimeter of water 1 degree Celsius. So when you get into freezing water, your heat is leaving your body. And so now your body is going to work hard to try and stay warm. And so you are burning calories. There is no amount of cardio that will amount to. If
you were to wear one of those whoops or like one of those things that measures your body, do you think it would measure the calorie burn sufficiently in a cold plunge?
Good question.
Because would the watch, like if I was wearing an Apple Watch, would it register? Because there wouldn't be a lot.
I'm going to do it next time.
Okay, because there wouldn't be a lot of movement, right?
You don't want to move, bro.
Yeah.
Doesn't an Apple Watch already tell you that you're dying though? You're dying, buddy.
So here's the crazy thing. So all the oxygen that's in your body at the time, it comes to the core because in an effort to save your life. So your heart, all your vital organs, and your brain, you get a euphoric hit.
Yeah.
And so, you talk about cocaine, if anybody's ever done cocaine, and you get this high for 20 minutes. Well, you have that same high for 2 hours plus.
Wow.
By plunging. And it sucks. And it is the most addictive thing you'll ever do.
Could you just imagine drug dealers like in New York being like, I got some cold water. I did. So I took my wife to Vegas for her birthday. We stayed at the Crockfords at Resorts World, an awesome resort in Vegas. And they have this amazing spa, and they have like this. It's really cool because it's co-ed, which if you're with your wife, you want to be able to hang out together. Mm-hmm. So it's got like it's men's side and it's women's side, but then there's a big middle part that anyone can access. And they had 4 pools of water, 60 degrees, 80 degrees, 90 degrees, 100 degrees. I was telling a friend of mine, I was like, yeah, I did the cold plunge, dude. I was in 60-degree water, man. He's like, 60 degrees? I was like, yeah. He's like, you didn't do a cold plunge.
Yeah, no.
And I was like, no, yeah, I did. And he's like, no, dude, it's got to be. He's like, mine's 40 degrees.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I get that. But also, if they made it 40 degrees, literally no one would go in it. Not in that moment. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I was already, and there was probably in that area at my time, 40 to 60 people coming in and out.
Right.
And my wife and I and maybe 6 other people ever attempted the 60-degree water. And it's like, so if it was 40, no one's attempting it.
Bro, I could kick it in 60 degrees. And so your body produces brown fat. It's so good for you.
What made you decide to start it?
On a dare from my kids. And so we started this, I want to say it was in November of 22, somewhere in there. And here's the crazy thing. And there's probably no medical science for this, but below my waist, and the kids say I'm cheating because I can only feel half of it, right? But like my toes, like right now, they're like we were talking about feeling asleep right now, are just freaking out. But I love it because it hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts in places I shouldn't be able to feel.
Yeah, right.
And so many people now talking about that. So many people run from pain or take painkillers to get away from pain.
Yeah.
And we've got this opioid epidemic.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, opioids, like we were talking, they don't only dull pain, they dull joy. They dull everything.
Yeah.
And so I don't take anything. I don't take anything for my neuropathy. I don't take anything for pain, Advil, or I'll get out of my chair and lay on the floor or something or get moving. And so the cold plunge
What do you use for your cold plunge? You pay so I thought like, oh, that'd be cool. Let's get a cold plunge pool.
It's too easy.
And my wife was like, oh yeah, I found one. I was like, okay, cool. How much? She's like $7,000. I was like, what? No, that's a hard no. I'm not paying $7,000
Right.
for cold water.
Right.
Like that's almost as much as my hot water hot tub.
I'm gonna make it so easy for you. Go to Best Buy or go somewhere. Go to Home Depot. Ask for their freezers that are
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
scratch and dent or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I use. I brought it home. I caulked the inside, filled that bad boy up with water. Boom, done. I got a thermostat and a timer on my wall.
How often do you drain it?
Every 160 plunges.
Oh, okay, that's
But
not
you
bad.
have to get in clean. You know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because my wife said she's like, we need to circulate the water and we need the UV radiation to clean it.
And it's no, you don't need that. And it's in fact mine needs to be cleaned. I'm probably gonna do that tonight. But it's too easy. And so what? $300?
Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, I'm out. No way.
Right.
Not doing
And
it.
you got this freezer, and of course it doesn't filter the water or anything like that. But you can just drain it, clean it,
And you do it for 5 minutes.
I've done it for 10. They say it.
Jesus. Have you read Wim Hof's book?
Oh, bro.
Do you do the breathing?
Oh, yes.
You do.
Yeah. So you do, because dude, you get in there and it takes the breath away from you. So I do the Wim Hof, and the longest I've done is 10 minutes, but I wanted to go to 13. So at 13 minutes, that's the cutoff for hypothermia to set in.
Jeez.
So then it starts becoming unproductive.
Eric Gubler, we're talking about Eric before. Eric, if you're listening, shout out to you. And he had like posted last week, like group hike or whatever, you know?
Yep.
And I was like,
Dude, I'm about it.
Eric's he's always doing shit. And so I didn't do it right. And then later that day he posted and they went to they went on a hike and then got in like some cold ass river. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't do that.
Dude, I hit him up right then. I'm like, listen, I'm in. Let's do it's called a mat pack. Okay, not a backpack, a mat pack.
Oh.
So I jump on Eric's back and he'll take me to the river. We'll get in and
Oh man,
I'm
that's
about
awesome.
it. I'm all about pushing limits, seeing how mentally tough I can be. The hardest thing before my paralysis was wrestling. I wrestled in high school, wrestled in junior high, and learned a lot about myself through wrestling and doing hard things that way. So
It's amazing. So I hate the cold. I grew up in Wyoming. And so like I paid my dues in the cold, you know, like I can remember recesses as a kid, like bone chilling cold, you know, like you're doing everything you can to just not be cold. And so I had built up this thing where it's like, I really hate it. And so like my wife, when we were at the resort, she's like, let's do it. And I was like, no, I hate the cold. She's like, just change the way you think about it. And that's literally what I did is I just told myself I wasn't cold. Dude. You know, and the mind is just, and now granted, obviously the listeners know it was 60 degrees. It's not the 40 degrees, but for me, it was still like, I was proud of myself for getting in and changing my mental focus and just telling myself like, I'm just not cold. And it worked. Yeah. Because, you know, it's hard because we want to think our brain's in control of us, but we're in control of our brains. Like we're in control of our thoughts.
Yeah. Your heart. So like running a marathon, I ran in St. George Marathon, and boy, mile marker 18. Don't want to do it anymore.
That's how I was too.
So my mind's just like shut
is exact same for me. And someone gave me Tylenol. I don't know if I needed it mentally or physically more, but in one of the capacities I needed it because I was ready to be like, oh, fuck it, I'm done. And then this gal gave me some Tylenol, and it was like taking that, and maybe it's the placebo effect, but I just felt like, okay, I've got something now. And I was able to finish it, but that's exactly where I died out.
Yeah, your heart. So when your mind doesn't want to do it anymore, that's when your heart takes over, and you're just like, "Nah, we're doing this. This is what we do. We're gonna do it." So I've kind of trained myself that way. So my non-negotiables: I go to the gym every day. I cold plunge every day. I read a book for 20 minutes every day. I don't eat McDonald's, and I don't watch pornography. 5 things. Those 5 things. And I had to go to work on those things so I took the things in my life that were not serving me. Yeah. And got rid of them. And why McDonald's?
Do you eat no fast food or just McDonald's?
No, just McDonald's. I was thinking no fast food, but bro, that's no pizza. No any. And
I wouldn't. Yeah. See, for me, I would think like pizza makes the cut of not fast food. In-N-Out, even to me, In-N-Out like is a notch above.
Okay.
In-N-Out's not McDonald's.
Yeah. And you can do a protein style, animal style, things like that.
But McDonald's is trash.
bro. But a McDouble with max sauce, 2 McDoubles, max sauce, large fry, and large Coke.
I used to love it. I don't eat it anymore either. My kids have never had like a Happy Meal or whatever because we don't give them that food either. And we were at the airport, like trying to make I think we're coming back from Mexico, landed in Denver and had like no time, right? And hadn't eaten in 4 hours or whatever. And so it's like we were at a crux. Yeah. And so we had to get McDonald's. That was like the only thing that we could make. And so my kids had McDonald's for like the first time. And after my son was like, "Oh, my stomach hurts so bad." It's like, yeah, dude, your stomach it's not forged for that. Dude. You know, you haven't built up that tolerance. I mean, our food system in America as a whole is just such shit. Oh my
gosh. Sugar, bro. Sugar. We are addicted to sugar.
So bad.
Say, dude, sugar is nuts. Like I think it's Jordan Peterson's daughter, the blonde girl that's on his podcast, his daughter, but she refuses to give. She's not going to give her daughter. She's like 2 years old now. She's like, I won't give her any sugar until she's like 5, 6, or 7 years old. Or I can't remember where she draws the line, but yeah, she's like, she just feeds her daughter like red meat. You know?
Yeah, my wife is pretty limited on what she lets her kids have. And I'm always, what's the word? Like when I'm struggling with it, you know, perplexed.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like a part of me is like, let the kids have joy because they're children. But also like, you're right. You know, it's like we just got a Christmas gift on the door last night. And I had like little Debbie's, like, you know, those things that'll sit on a shelf for 100 years and be fine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And my kids are like, yeah, like this is awesome, you know? And my wife's like, throw it away.
Yeah.
She's like, put water on it, put it in the trash. Like, you're not having it. You know, and a part of me is like, that kind of sucks. But the other part of me is like, I know that we're doing them. I think it's the right thing to do. Yeah. You know, like there's no good that comes from that. Blake, cigar question. Yeah. Do I need to hit this again with a lighter?
Yeah. So sometimes because this is natural tobacco, there's it's like pure tobacco. Sometimes you might need to relight it. Yeah. So
okay, so hit it like this, Blake.
Yeah, just like that.
And then just puff.
Yeah. Just give it a puff. Sometimes too, if you want to use the edge of the lighter, you can over the ashtray kind of scrape some of that off if it's not lighting appropriately to you. Yeah, great question though. Yeah, just exactly like that. Cody's got it. Now you're relit.
Okay.
That happens to me all the time in conversation too, you know, so you're talking beautiful. Beautiful.
So the one thing I'll tell you, Matt, about cigars that I don't like is like the tomorrow effect.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it kind of makes.
Oh, I wasn't told about the tomorrow.
Oh, I know. I had to wait until you're into it.
Damn. All right.
To me, it makes.
I see what kind of friends you guys are.
It makes your mouth feel like not an ashtray, but a litter box.
Okay.
And so one trick I found is if I eat like a
now, what if my mouth's never been a litter box either, so I can't really equate.
You'll know.
Okay.
But I found if I eat like a gummy substance, like gum or something like that, it's almost like it pulls it out of your mouth a little bit. So you might want to do that. I don't know if Blake has any trips.
If you have like a good cheese, like I'm a cheese connoisseur as well. So if you have like a cheese, something that can coat your mouth or absorb.
Yeah, it's like you got to get it out because the toothpaste and the mouthwash won't do it.
It's not going to do it. It's not going to cut it.
Nope, it won't.
Well, hey, thanks for that advice now. Okay,
yeah.
All right. Litterbox coming. Got you.
Yep, Litterbox is on its way.
We've got 2 cats, so I know a little bit about litter boxes.
Yeah, Blake, when he had me do it in Scottsdale, we were there for another podcast that we do. And the next day I had like, how many podcasts do we have that next day, Blake?
Oh, you guys did 11 in 2 days. So
yeah.
Like 6 that day.
And then the next morning I was like, oh, Blake, I shouldn't have done that.
Multiple cigars then?
No, we just had one, but I just never do it really anymore, you know?
Right.
And that's my bad for not thinking of the day after. But yeah, it will make your voice a little groggy.
Well, when you're at the Biltmore, you got to have. I mean, it was nice. It was a good experience.
So overall. Don't do it the day before I speak. Then is what we're saying. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're like, you know, if you do it often, you kind of know. Mm-hmm. To me, it doesn't bother my voice at all. But for Cody, I think it was more of a sinus thing.
It was just like all of it. You know, all the travel. You know, you're at a work social event, so you got a little bit of alcohol, you know,
right,
a little bit of cigar.
We also partied pretty hard.
So it happens, you know, what are you going to do? Okay, but let's get into our listeners. So we'd kind of made it. So what's so funny, and having Matt come on, I knew that you're in a wheelchair, and I know that you spoke about that, and I had seen the dash cam.
Yeah.
And so I had my Christmas party on Friday, and Allie, who works with us, her boyfriend was on the Utah Tech baseball team. And I was like, oh, I had the greatest podcast today. This guy, Matt Blanchard. And then her boyfriend, Tay, was like, Matt's the man. He's incredible. And I was like, oh, he totally is.
Is it Tay Newman?
Yes.
Oh, bro. Tay, love you, bro.
Yeah.
Tay's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a great dude. Allie's been dating him for a little over a year. And so this is the second Christmas party he's come to with us. And as soon as I started talking about it, he was like, oh, man, how do you know Tay?
So Bubba, my son, is Tay's age. And so they played against each other their whole life because they're up from Happy Valley, you know? And so they were on a team called the Clutch, and we were on a team called the Roadrunners down here. And we played against them head to head all the time to the best teams in the state.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Small world.
It is it not?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how small of a world it really is. So I'm telling that story about how awesome it was and talking about the dash cam footage. And the reason I share that is because I had thought that was the wreck. Because if I knew you got in a wreck and you have dash cam footage of it, how could I ever, for the life of me, think this isn't the wreck that caused this situation? So then you're telling me the story and you're like, yeah, back in 2006, is that right?
Yeah, 2006.
And I'm thinking like, wait, what? That doesn't. And you're like, and then I'd heard you on maybe Derek Legg's podcast about like how you were walking again. And so in my mind, I was like so confused. So come to find out, it's because I think you said you're the only person ever to have been paralyzed in 2 different car accidents.
Yeah, dude. So it's crazy. It like, even if I think about it, like that's just crazy. And I think we were talking, I was in the car saying, no way. No.
Well, because I asked, what was because my initial response, I think, would have been like, what the fuck?
Dude.
Like how could this possibly happen again? You know, because you'd worked for 15 years to walk again.
Yeah.
And you're preparing for your daughter's wedding to walk her down the aisle. And so to have that happen again, it's like, God, that would just shake a lot of my belief or faith in anything.
You know what? And it actually renewed my faith. That's the crazy thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So through this whole thing, I grew up LDS, got in that first accident, went through some things, and my wife and I and the family, and then outgrew that religion, great religion, and then I become agnostic, and then I just don't believe in God at all. Like, don't believe in God.
Did you consider yourself an atheist?
For sure.
Yeah.
100%. And professed it. You know, like, how, come on.
Yeah.
Really? We're just going through
and
the
that's
motions.
kind of powerful too, because then now here's this dude,
Oh, yeah.
you know, who's overcome all these things saying it's not real.
Doing good things, man. Doing good things as self-proclaimed atheist. And, you know, still trying to make my impact on the world, working at the hospital, working with TBIs and spinal cord injuries, amputees. And then I get in that second accident. And yeah, there's, if you want to call it God or energy or whatever your belief is, there's something way bigger waiting for us, man. And it's amazing. It's unbelievable.
So you had said, so you had those 3 minutes where you felt that thing that you're speaking to now.
Yep.
But a question that I have is, and we talked about time and our belief of like, is it, I said, is it linear? And you're like, it's spherical, right? And so my question is, do you believe that our life is a little bit preordained? And so do you believe that like you were meant to be in this wheelchair to share your story in the way you do? And that's why this unbelievable thing happened twice, because it was already predestined for you. And they just, whoever it is, the creator was like, oh, well, Matt will never walk again. And then you did. And it's like, God damn it, Matt.
Right.
Like, you're supposed to be in a wheelchair sharing this story.
Right.
And so now, do you believe in that at all? Or is it? No, not at all.
I believe this is what I know this about myself, is I'm a badass, straight up badass, because I do hard things every day, but we all do. And we don't give ourselves credit for the hard things we do. I believe that before this existence, I was a badass. I've always been a badass. And
you mean before this existence, as in like
before this
lives?
earthly existence? And I had this ability, this leadership, this hey, this is me type thing.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that. I'm not in a wheelchair because God said, hey, we're going to give you this challenge so that you can overcome or whatever.
Yeah.
God doesn't do that. It doesn't work that way. I'm in a wheelchair because of pride and arrogance, like we talked about.
If you're not listening in part 1, go back and you'll understand what Matt means by that.
Yeah. And so I'm doing good things. I'm a strong individual, always have been from a young kid.
Yeah.
You know, so I believe that I always have been and always will be a badass. I stepped into that power, and I am here to inspire and motivate. That's whatever you want to call it, God or energy made that extremely clear.
Yeah.
That's my purpose.
And you're talking about like that thing you felt in the second wreck.
Yeah. And so coming out of that, I knew there was a God after that. I don't have.
Is that when you shifted your belief back to?
Yeah. And it's, I mean, we could talk about this, and I know Blake wants to talk about it too, for hours and hours and hours and hours of what I experienced.
Yeah.
And my beliefs now. But as far as being that, like, hey, Matt, you're not reaching your potential. I need to put you in another wreck.
Yeah.
Type thing. No,
yeah. Not at all.
Mm-mm. So life happens for us. Everything in life happens for us. And when you're in the trench, when you're in the fight, you can't see the forest for the tree.
Yeah.
Like when you're literally scrapping for your life, literally, you find out whether you want to do this or not. Because you see it all the time. As soon as someone gives up the desire to live, they don't live much longer.
Yeah.
And at whatever age, they're doing either crazy, stupid shit.
Yeah.
Or an older gentleman has lost his wife, and he passes away.
I know it's amazing how often like older couples who've been together their whole lives will pass within a short period of time with each other, because obviously it's not. It's just they didn't. There was no purpose anymore, so they pass.
So I'm lucky. I know my purpose.
Yeah,
and that's when I went all in on I Inspire. I've gone all in on my nonprofit and foundation. So before the accident, I was kind of here, there, and everywhere.
I was going to ask, so because you owned your own company and you were an electrician, right, for the first wreck. And so I never got to ask you this, but how did you provide for your family after that first wreck in those, like, in all those 15 years? What did you do?
So I was, back, we talked 03, 05. Those were great years.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to put money away.
Okay, so you had a nest egg you could rely on for a little bit.
And then there's that stupid thing that came out when I was in high school called Bitcoin. That wasn't ever going to go anywhere. And I remember spending so many Bitcoins to buy, because Pizza Hut was the first one you could buy pizzas with Bitcoin. I don't know if you know. You bet.
The first thing I ever knew about Bitcoin was the Silk Road, which was like that black web website where you could buy drugs and other illicit things. Like that's what I thought Bitcoin was created for.
Yeah. Well, that too.
Bitcoin is the
So I was lucky enough to have some things going that way for me. And
so you had Bitcoin back in the day?
Yeah, I still have some of that.
You jumped on the Bitcoin train, so you had that huge
stupid lucky.
Yeah.
Stupid lucky. And then I had saved up some money. And so we lived on that for a while. I traveled to China and had 70 million stem cells injected into my back.
Wow.
All I wanted to do was walk. Traveled the nation doing therapies. And I'll tell you this, we have the best therapist right here in St. George.
Really? Where did you go in China?
Xinjiang.
Okay.
So just below Beijing.
I've been to Beijing.
Yeah. And so I was supposed to go to Shenzhen. So we flew into Hong Kong, went to Shenzhen, and then they flew us from Shenzhen to Xinjiang. It was just basically going from California to New York.
Okay.
And spent 6 weeks over there doing therapies every day and acupuncture and stem cells and all this stuff to regain the ability to walk. So for me, it was a checklist. So I was going to walk. But I needed to do all the things. If I wasn't going to walk, I needed to, and stem cells was one of those things that needed checked off the list.
Do you think the stem cells helped you be able to succeed? No, it didn't.
No. And anybody that ever wanted to do stem cells, I mean, I'm sure things have changed. I went over in 07. Talk to me. Like, there's no way. Mm-mm.
Really?
Yeah. And a lot of my friends that are in chairs have done stem cells.
Nothing. So did you ever get into like another profession in that window of time in those 15 years?
Yeah. So I decided I was going to be a physician.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to go and work with other spinal cord injuries and show them, hey, things are going to be okay.
Yeah.
Life's going to be a little different, but things are going to be okay. And I still do that to this day.
Yeah.
So went through undergrad and my wife worked. I went all through undergrad, got accepted to med school. And mama said, no, I'm not going to med school. You're going to be 50 plus years old. We'll be $500,000 in debt. We're not going to med school. So applied to PA school, got admitted to PA school. Mom says
physical.
No. Yeah, physical. A physician's assistant.
Okay.
And she said, no, I'm not going to do that. So I stayed at, it's Utah Tech now, and started teaching anatomy. So I do that a little bit on Mondays and Wednesdays. And then just worked at the hospital and just showing people that have suffered deficits that this is happening for you.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I know it's shitty.
Yeah, what a powerful thing to have someone because they're going to take what you say so differently than someone walking on two legs who doesn't know.
That doesn't. So that's what I would do.
Yeah.
So on our patients that were not combative, but were like, F you. You don't know what, not to me, but to our physicians.
Yeah, right.
You don't know what the hell, because they don't.
Yeah, they don't.
But our physicians are great enough that they realize you're right, but they bring me in. And now you're like, look.
Yeah, it's got to make a big difference.
I get it. You want to walk, believe me, I get it. But before you do that, we got to do these things.
Yeah.
And
put your socks on.
Yeah, you got to get our socks on.
Right.
Yep. And so that's what we did. And that's what I still do. So.
But now you're a speaker as well.
Yeah.
And so did you consider yourself a professional speaker now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
And so how many talks are you given in a year?
Ooh, man. Some months, it's December, I didn't speak.
Okay.
November, I spoke nearly 3 times a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you go do any like professional courses or anything like that?
So this is how, great questions. So what I did to develop my talk was it first just started out with religion and, hey, will you come and speak to this youth group and this, that, and the other. So,
LDS religion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I did that. And then somebody in the crowd will say, hey, would you come and speak to?
Yeah.
And so I did that and then realized, hey, I'm good at this. And people are drawn to me.
Yeah.
So I went to the university and one of the professors got me with the senior doing his capstone. And his capstone was to take my talk, dissect it, and get rid of all the fat.
Okay.
And get hand movements and movement and all that stuff. And so over the course of a semester, I wrote and rewrote, and then my talk over and over and over to get down to the nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
And so Eric Young is the guy's name. He's retired now, but Eric, if you're listening, I love you. And it kind of went from there.
Have you done a TED Talk?
Okay. So this is crazy. So TEDx.
Yeah.
Not a TED Talk, but TEDx.
Yeah.
And it was at Sun River. And right now we're putting together another TEDx. I think it's going to be at Sun River. But
the same group that did the one like at the Electric Theater?
Different group.
Different group. Okay.
The night before I was supposed to speak, got a killer kidney infection. Ended up in the hospital for a week.
Oh, wow.
So I wasn't able to give my talk.
Oh, shoot.
So, and since then, it's just gotten better.
Yeah.
And better and better.
Yeah.
So I speak to anyone from the hardest group I've ever spoke to is 4th graders, talking about seatbelt safety.
Yeah.
And the funnest group, and they're right here in town, actually, Bowler Aesthetics.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I don't. No.
So they do eyebrows, man. They do.
And that was your favorite group.
And it's because what happened is they're like, look, we would like you to come speak. And it's a formal event. I'm like, right on. Cool. So my wife and I get ready, and I roll into this room with 100 other just beautiful women.
Yeah.
I'm the only male.
Oh.
Bro. I was thinking everybody's husbands was going to be there.
Yeah, right.
Like
yeah.
And when I started the talk out, I was just like, this is every man's dream. Okay? Because all these women just beautiful. Yeah. The talk went off well. And so anyway, but I love speaking to sports groups. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, big things in the works.
It's interesting because that's one of my goals, right? Part of the book is like, that's part of it, book, podcast, speaking. And so that was one of my goals this year, was to really refine that part of what I want to do and be. And I was lucky enough to give a couple events this year. I just spoke SU 2 weeks ago. And what's amazing is how differently I watch speakers now.
Yeah.
Because I watch it like a sport.
Right.
You know, because I'm watching basketball. I'm looking at like, what are they doing? How are they setting picks? Like what, you know, what's happening on the court. And now when I watch professional speakers speak, how do they open?
Right.
And how do they use their hands? And where are they moving to?
Right.
When do they pause? How long do they pause? It's so different. And so it's been really fun. So I'm going to, so I spoke at an event in Columbus. Do you know who Lewis Howes is, the School of Greatness?
No.
So he was one of like the podcast pioneers. He started it like 10 years ago. He's like a Joe Rogan-esque podcaster. And so he holds this event in Columbus every year called the Summit of Greatness. And he brings in all these tremendous speakers. And I was lucky enough to speak at an event that was like attached to that the day before for a group called Book Thinkers. And I met this other gal spoke. Her name was Jeanette. And I was like, wow, she's a professional. Like you can tell,
right?
She's done something. She's very skilled. Not only is her message great, many people have great messages, but she delivers it in a poignant way that grabs your attention. And so I thought I got to ask her, you know, how.
Okay, so
she told me about this group based out of Newark, New Jersey called Heroic Speaking.
Okay.
And I guess and what's great about them is I think the best speakers are people with theater backgrounds because they understand stage presence and like ultimately it is in a sense an act.
Yeah.
And they are drama people. And so my speaking coach that I hired this year to get myself like to be better.
Yeah.
He was a drama person too. And so he's so different than I am. Like he sings all the time and he's goofy and he's amazing. His name is Michael Alasso. And so that kind of started my process. And so now I'm going to New Jersey in January to go to like a 2-day speaking course training, like to dial it in over the next 2 days.
Is that a babe?
Yeah, so I'm super excited for that.
That's freaking okay. So now that we're on this, how long is your presentation?
So I could make it anywhere from 20 minutes to 60 minutes.
Okay.
And then I did do a workbook. Like, so there's a group called Vistage. Have you ever heard of Vistage?
Mm-mm.
You should talk. We got to get you connected with Vistage. So Vistage is, and this is the main thing that got me going is my speaking coach. He came and did a presentation here in St. George for with my business coach. And I was like, this guy's amazing. Like, I got to figure out what his story is. So I go up and talk to him and told me that all of his success had come from this Vistage thing. And what it is there's all these boards all around the United States, and it's comprised of like anywhere from 10 to 14 C-suite executives that come together once a month to improve their ability to be good at their business, right? And so they have to have a speaker for 8 of the 12 meetings a year. And so if you get approved to be a Vistage speaker, then you're like in the speakers that they can pick from, right? And they have to have them. They have to have 8 speakers a year. And so what Michael told me is, so you get to go do this. And once you're in it, you do get paid a small amount, but you get compensated. And that's a 3-hour talk. He's like, but every talk I've ever done in some ways associated to Vistage. Kind of like what you said, because you go to Vistage, you speak, you give a 3-hour talk to these C-suite executives. Yeah. And then one of them is like, I need you to come present to my company.
Wow.
Or my buddy's doing this thing and he needs you, right? And so he does 111 Vistage talks a year.
Okay.
So there's 111 right there.
Damn.
And then he's getting all these other opportunities from that. And so I just did my first Vistage talk in November. And then so they rate you. So after the meeting, you get a rating. They rate you on 3 different things from 1 to 5. And then they give you a recommendation percentage too. So you have to be good or your rankings go down. And so now I booked my next 2. So you have to do 3 for free to like basically be vetted that like you're worth their time. Okay. And so my chair liked our first one so much. She's bringing me back for 2 of her other boards. And so that will be in February. And then after that, I'll be officially in the Vistage.
Is that a babe?
Yeah. So I'm super excited about that because that just creates so much opportunity. And so that one is 3 hours.
And what's your message?
It's all about winning the moment. That's the whole premise, right? So I'm just taking that book and I'm just, in the talk, I'm taking the premise of the book and sharing it in 20 to 60 minutes. But in the Vistage groups, I made a workbook. And so we're going through and like, we're actively like in the talk I did, someone cried, someone shared that they struggled with addiction. Like they were sharing some real stuff. because I think it provides the opportunity to be honest and vulnerable.
Right.
And it's not like I'm not giving a talk on how to be a better executive.
Right.
I'm just giving a talk about how to get the most out of your life for you.
It's badass, man.
Yeah.
That is badass. It took me a long time because I've done this all on my own, but other than through the university.
Right.
And it's nailing things down. And
it's not easy.
No.
And even I told, I think I said this to the students at SU, is about 105 students a couple weeks ago for their speaker series. And I said, even before the talks, I always feel nervous. And I'm like, what's so interesting about it is it's not like it's a homework assignment. Like the college didn't say, hey, we want you to come talk to the students about this thing. Right. I'm giving a talk about my thing and I created it.
Right.
So the only one qualified to talk about it is me. And yet I still feel like, oh, am I doing it right? But it's like, I'm the only one who can decide, but it's so hard because all I want is for the people in the audience to take value out of it.
Yeah.
And that's where those nerves come from, is like, let me be able to share this in a way that it makes an impact.
So I'll share a little something with you. I've spoke for 15 years and I would consider myself a professional speaker, maybe 3-4 of those years. And people will not remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel.
Totally.
So, I was at Discount Tire over in Washington, and this kid comes up to me, hey, do you remember me? I'm like, sorry. And he's like, here's my wife and my kids. You came and spoke at our junior ROTC banquet. And I just want you to know the impact that you had.
That's awesome.
And I get that all the time, which is my purpose, so that makes me feel good that hey,
a lasting impression.
Yeah. That he used the words, you changed my trajectory in life.
Wow. That's amazing.
When I go and speak to like at Steps Recovery or,
is your speech always the same?
No. So with the recovery, I'll talk about my addiction. We've never even got to that with this podcast.
A little bit we did in part 1.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about it.
So I'll go much further into addiction and how, and those people that are there recovering, they are like, yep, because I'm going through that shit right now.
Yeah.
The most hellacious thing I've ever gone through in my life is narcotic withdrawals.
I remember that's what you said in part 1. That's, I can't imagine.
So I go much more into that, and because as soon as the audience knows that you're authentic,
well, yeah, for them to see like this person made it through, that's a motivator.
And now you're on the other side, and what's your purpose and where you're going in life, and use your story to help others. It's not about me; it's about us. Yeah, and so many people. It's not about you. Like with this podcast. Hopefully we change the trajectory of other people's just having a conversation and let them know, hey, life's hard. Yeah. It's always going to be hard. Yeah. And we can do it. But you don't have to do it alone.
Well, I think that's the beautiful thing is that even if only one person listens to this and it makes a difference, that's worth it.
So I'm at Hurricane High School. Oh, this was, I believe this was in November, just a couple months ago. And every time after I talk, I get mobbed by kids, man. Yeah. It's amazing.
I bet.
And, I'm signing shoes and I'm doing different things. And there's this one girl. This is the most special in 15 years. This is my most special moment.
And this just recently happened.
Yeah, this just happened. And there's a girl standing over in the corner and she's kind of rocking back and forth. And she's all in gray sweats and she waits for everybody to leave. And she comes up to me and she says, my name's Melissa. And I'm autistic and I don't like being touched, but I want to give you a hug. And I was like, right on. Her teacher's mouth wide open. The principal's mouth wide open. She comes over and is really rigid on giving me a hug. And I just leaned into her and said, hey, Melissa, you are beautiful. And that girl melted, man. Melted.
Wow.
And we just embraced long enough that I became uncomfortable. Wow. And so now the teacher's crying and Melissa and the teacher are walking off and the principal is just, I've never seen her interact with somebody like that. Wow. And so I was there for her that day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's true. When I go and speak about addiction, or I speak about suicide, these very touchy, sensitive things, we get real. I've been suicidal.
That was going to be my next question. That was the most interesting thing in doing this podcast. So I think, I don't know my notes, but I want to say you're episode 35, I think. So not a lot, right? And many of them, it's probably about half and half of people like I really knew and people who I'm just meeting, like yourself.
Yeah.
And the most surprising thing and the most startling and concerning thing is the percentage of times suicide has been brought up. Because if you asked me if it's a problem before I started the podcast, I would have emphatically said no.
Right.
Right. And then it's even people I do know who then share these stories. And I'm like, what? I can't believe it, And so that to me is what I realized is like, wow, if that is something that is like coming up so frequently in this short window of conversation, what I realized is it's only taking 60 minutes for someone to share this with me on average. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, man, how many people do I know if I spent 60 minutes having an undivided conversation with them, would I find this out about? And that is honestly, it's part of the motivation to continue, because it's like, obviously this message needs to be shared, because I think most people in those moments feel like they're the only one. And obviously there's a large amount of people going through it. And how do we best help if someone's listening right now and they're going through it, how can we best help and support them?
There's the story where the young man is riding a horse and he has this objective to get through this marsh and swamp, and he's in the clouds or it's dark, and he's just saying out loud, "Hey, I can't do this. I don't know. I can't see my destination. I've got all this bullshit to go through to get there. I don't think I can do this." And the horse responds back, you can't see where you're going, but can you see the next step?
Yeah.
So let's just take the next step. You don't need to. My dad said this. My dad says, "Hey Matt, how do you eat an elephant? You know how you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. One bite at a time." And if you focus on the whole elephant, that's a daunting task.
Yeah.
You start with the tail or wherever you want to start, and just start. And get rid of all the things, because you can't do all the things.
Well, that's really the premise of winning the moment, because I realize that the problem is we get stuck in that mindset. And so it's like, instead of deciding I'm going to exercise every day for the rest of my life, just exercise right now.
Right.
Like, you only have to say yes right in this moment.
Right.
And if you don't say yes later, that's fine.
Right.
Because we're not going to live later. We're only going to live where we are, which is now. And so that's really the entire premise of that the philosophy I created for myself. Ultimately, I created it because I needed it. I needed to change the way that I perceived things to allow myself to better move forward and not get stuck in this granular, like, I have to make a decision forever and for always.
I would tell myself it's okay. So laying there, not sure.
Did you ever act on your suicidal thoughts?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Here we go. You asked.
I did.
So I had planned it out, and I got my gun, and I got in my shower because I wanted it to be the easiest to clean up and things like that.
Wow, isn't that so sad? Even in that like you were even thinking of like, what's the cleanup going to be like?
Oh yeah, because you're already a burden. At least that's how I viewed myself.
Right, yeah.
I was a burden on.
Was this after the first wreck?
Yeah. Yeah. So I get home, try to destroy my marriage. I'm in a bad place. And so I decide I'm going to take my life. And I get my pistol and I get in the shower. And it chamber one. And my youngest son, who was 6 when I got hurt. No, 8. He would have come home from Arrowhead Elementary, and he would have been the first one to find me. And that's what stopped me. I didn't want
having that realization, like, I'm gonna
fuck this kid's life up for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And that's what stopped me that day. And I never, ever have had another suicidal tendency since.
Did you share that with your wife that
Yeah.
day?
No.
How long did you hold that for?
Oh, years and years.
Really?
Yeah. I was ashamed of that thought.
Yeah.
You know? And
did you physically get in the shower then?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
we were ready to rock. Well, like I don't do things halfway.
Yeah. And were you at that time? Were you addicted to your drugs at that time?
I would say no. I was taking them for their purpose at the time.
Okay, so then that was really just that wasn't.
We're 4 months in. We're 4.5 months.
Okay, so it
into
wasn't
this
outside influence. It was your
right.
own.
It was out of what are you? You can't provide. You're not a man. You're not a husband. You're not what are you? And you can't go to the bathroom by yourself. You can't get in the shower. You can't get dressed by yourself. If someone takes that wheelchair away, you can't go anywhere. You can't. I mean, all the can'ts, all the things that had been taken, and I was so focused on all the things that had been taken from me, rather than looking at all the things that had been given.
Yeah, or even that you even had.
Oh,
still.
Yeah, and so, that thought right there is what changed everything. And
had you written a letter or anything?
No.
No.
I hadn't planned it out that way. I wanted the nightmare over.
Was it almost impulsive that you just had a sense of it's got to be over and you went into the shower?
Yeah. It's not getting easier.
Yeah.
This is not getting any easier. In fact, I'm having accidents on a daily basis as a 30-year-old man, and having to be cleaned up like a child, like a baby.
Yeah.
And that's horrible. And that's I can't and then not being able to get out of bed, not being able to shower myself, and it was horrible. And I had that brace on, that I couldn't do anything without that damn brace on, and I hated that brace. And so I'd and then after, you're ashamed that you were even having those thoughts,
that you got to that point,
and ashamed, that how selfish. I mean, that would have jacked things up.
Yeah,
bad.
Yeah,
bad. And I'm not. I mean, I've had friends that have OD'd and died on accident. I've had friends that have taken their lives because life is fucking hard, man.
Yeah.
And when it's hard, it feels shitty. But I want everybody to know it's hard for everybody. And at one point or another, everybody feels shitty.
Yeah, because I think part of that thought is you're alone, right? You're thinking I'm the only person going through, and maybe at that particular moment in time, you're the only person with the struggles that you had individually, but there's other people in wheelchairs, and there's other people who can't take care of themselves. But you only feel like you're a failure, right?
A failure, a burden. I would say a burden on everyone.
How long did you sit in the shower that day?
Oh,
fighting those demons.
Not long. So I just decided. I went. It took me. I mean, I had to go get the damn gun, load it, and getting to it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't. It was just getting done. It was I was done. And got in there, and I was like, okay, Bubba's gonna find me. And I put the gun back in the safe, and didn't talk to anybody or tell anybody about it, but knew that wasn't an option anymore.
Yeah. And how long did you say you waited until you shared that?
Oh, years and years. And then I just went all in on getting better, on doing the impossible.
So what advice do you have to people? Because I don't have any, right? Because I've not been there. But what advice do you have for someone who's feeling that way? What do you know from your experience are the best outlets that they can take? Someone listening to this is like, oh fuck, I feel like I'm a burden. I want to get in the shower. What do you have? What advice do you have for them?
Your absence would cause such a huge hole in so many lives, and you don't know the trajectory that that others would take because of your absence.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that my kids would be screwed up,
Oh, for sure.
and that my wife.
No one's better off with you doing
No,
that.
I don't.
And think of all the impacts you've made. You've been a speaker
Yeah.
for 15 years, right? So not just your family, which is first
Right.
and foremost,
Right.
but the ripple effects of the impact you made in so many other people's lives.
You know Mason Sawyer?
No.
Okay, he needs to be on your podcast, and I'll get you his info. Mason needs to be on your podcast.
Is he here in St. George?
He is, and I'll just you'll cut this out, but here it is in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Mason's 30 years old, just like me. He's coaching basketball up in Logan. There's a dust storm in Fillmore.
Oh, yeah, where it can happen.
Yep. And his wife, his oldest son, his daughter, his nephew, and his uncle all killed in a 20,
This was recent, right?
26,
Yeah.
26 car pileup.
Yeah, I remember that.
The only one that survived was his son, Blue, who was, I want to say 4 at the time. And so Mason he has a podcast called the 90-10. So life is 10% what happens to you or for you,
Yeah.
and 90% what you do about it.
Yeah.
And if someone like Mason can have so much taken from him
Yeah.
and still be a productive member of society, making a difference in people's lives, then you can too.
Yeah, and even for me, having my family taken from me versus losing my own abilities, that's probably, for me, would be harder.
Oh, I am so grateful that this happened to me and not one of my kids. You know how hard it would be for me to come home, bouncing through the door and see my youngest or any of my kids, my oldest in a wheelchair.
The fact that you didn't have anyone with you on that drive through to head to Mesquite, and that Blake was his name, right?
Brett.
And that Brett had a seatbelt on and wasn't hurt.
Yeah.
That both times.
Yeah. So it happens for you. Life is happening. So what you're thinking about, and you don't want to hear this. I know you don't want to hear this, but what you're contemplating suicide over is happening for you, not to you. You're not a victim. Stop playing the victim card. Life is hard for everybody, not just you. So reach out. You don't have to do this alone. You reach out to me, for hell's sakes.
Yeah.
And 435-231-5809. My problems are not bigger than your problems. Reach out to me and let's rap out. Let's talk about it. Let's cry. Let's scream. Let's yell. Let's kick. And let's. So I'd convince myself that it's okay. I'm giving up tomorrow. And then the next day, I'm going to give up tomorrow. So I tell everybody, you want to quit? Fine. Just not today.
Yeah. Ed Milet has his book just came out, and it was a message from his dad, and it was like the one, I think. And it was always about, because his dad was an addict. And it was always about like, I'm not going to drink today.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. And so it's the one. It's that concept of like, just today I'm not going to do that.
And I don't know if you've ever been there, but but it gets so dark that you are literally going by the frigging second, man.
No, yeah, I couldn't imagine. I don't know that feeling.
And then you get to the minute, and then you get to 10, and you just keep building on that. So if you're dark, get one more minute, man. One more minute. You can do this.
I had a friend come up and share with me the story of his father who took his life because of the podcast, and someone else had shared it. And it's like, man, it's really opened my eyes to like, it's a real problem,
Yeah.
like we gotta figure out a way to get ahead of it because there's too much of it.
And I'm huge on the label thing. I believe in depression. I've been there.
Yeah.
But I went through it. I'm not depressed. I believe in addiction. But I went through addiction. I'm not an addict.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be hard things, but they're not going to be hard forever. Just like good isn't forever either.
And here, God forbid forbid, like I in my mind, I think what's the hardest thing that could happen to me in my life? And that would be the loss of a child. And for those that have lost children, I honestly have no idea what you've gone through, but I'm here to love you. I'm here. I've experienced loss, but that too has happened for you, even though I don't understand it.
My wife's philosophy, she thinks that everyone decides going into their life what they're going to learn, or what, like, I'm going to have this bad thing happen so I can learn this, you know? And I always am like, well, I have a hard time wrapping my head around that, because I don't think that anyone is like, oh, I'm going to choose, you know, for my kid to get cancer and die at 5. And she's like, well,
yeah,
you know, but if you do believe it, like she believes, it does make it a little bit easier, because it's like you and that child both chose those things to learn something for whatever your next life is.
There's a greater purpose for all of us. And I think we all get so hung up on this is about me. This is not about Matt Blanchard.
Yeah.
It's not. This is about what impact Matt Blanchard can have on the world, and who I can help, and in turn can help me. And we talked about networks and even with speaking. And so how can I help you? How can I help you?
Well, what I do know from our conversations now, and if you're speaking at the capacity that you are, is you definitely got to do your book.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'd imagine that most people who hear your talk then want, like, what's next, right? Because you leave.
Yeah.
And so if you can leave something behind,
right,
I think that's probably a worthwhile effort for you.
I'll live forever.
I'd read the shit out of that book.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's cool about having a book, even for me. And I should say, you know, like, I don't plan on going anywhere, but I love that what I believe is now somewhere in perpetuity. So it's like there's going to be people down my line that will never know me, but you can give them my book, and they're going to get a piece of me that way.
This is what's so great about podcasts. Like, I've talked to other people about, I don't want to be on a podcast, because then it's there forever.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's there forever.
And the only constant is change. Just because my views today, like, look at me. I went from an LDS, God-fearing, to agnostic, to atheist, to where I'm at today. You know?
And that's what I hate about when they try to rewrite history now. Like, they just barely took down a statue. I think it was in Arlington Cemetery that, like, signified the end of the Civil War, or maybe it had a different significance. I can't remember, because they were like, well, the Civil War was bad, or slavery is bad. And it's like, of course it was. Sure. But that was the time that was then. Yeah. Like, we can't hold someone accountable for decisions they made when the information they had is what they had. Right? Like, if slavery existed today, people would have slaves, because that would be the way of life. It doesn't, you know? Today. What? Well, right. That's what I mean here, right? And of course it exists. Absolutely. Our iPhones are a product of that in some capacity.
Can I answer that a little bit?
Yeah.
So I think too, there's like an individual identity, and you are who you are because of what you've done, what you've gone through, because you scraped your knee in 3rd grade, you know, because you're paralyzed from the waist down, or because you lost a child, or because, you know, you dropped out of med school, or whatever's hard, whatever hits that life has dealt you is what's made you who you are. And as a society, we do the same thing. And the only time people want to manipulate that is so they can get a different outcome.
Well, yeah, we couldn't be America if we didn't do what we did.
Yeah.
And that's what makes us great. You know, it isn't what makes us evil.
Yeah.
Right.
It's actually the opposite. And the thing is, we abolished that shit. We got rid of it, you know? Right. And so we should be celebrating that, but understand it had to exist for us to defeat it and be the world leaders that we are, to say, this is not okay, you know?
There's always, you cannot have light without dark.
No, you certainly can't.
You can't have joy without pain. Like, I think we talked about
the duality,
winning, right? Winning holds no value, zero value. It's losing, and the grind to getting to winning. So if you're always winning, fun is winning. But if you're getting your ass kicked, winning is fun. Winning is great. Being on top is great. But you can't appreciate that without. So if you're going through hell right now, don't stop there. It's temporary. If you're on top, enjoy the moment, because it's temporary.
Yeah. Nothing is forever.
Yeah. So on my bad days,
do you talk about suicide in your talks?
Only when it's
Relevant.
asked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or so like in a sports team now.
Yeah.
Or but mental health, you bet. You know.
What's your sweet spot for time? Like what talk do you love to get? If they said you can have however much time you want, what do you want?
Give me an hour 40.
An hour 40.
Yeah.
That's impressive because to engage an audience for over 60 minutes, that's impressive.
And I get it every single time that I can't believe that everybody was that quiet and that much time. Like what we're going through, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, I believe it because we had that podcast and it felt like 20 minutes, you know, so I believe it. But that's impressive as a speaker because that is a long time to fill and that's a lot of attention to grab.
It is hard for me to be under 60.
It is. You got a long story. I mean, part 2, right? That's why we're here because your story isn't short.
Yeah. And it's, man, I think I'm probably in the middle part of my story, to be honest with you.
Right.
You know? Because this has all happened for me. Now, did I know, have I always known that this happened for me? Hell no. No. And when my legs had been stripped from me, and didn't want to live anymore, I couldn't see that this is happening for me. But then to show the grind and see the impact that I've had on my kids and that there's no quit. There's no excuses and there's no quit. You got a problem? Let's face it. Let's get over it.
That's my
and let's get on
favorite
with it.
is no excuses because no excuses are just lies we tell ourselves anyways, or excuses are, I'm sorry. And the quicker that you can just confront the reality of what stopped you, the quicker you're going to be able to get through it.
Yeah.
But as soon as you create an excuse and you rationalize you're falling short on whatever it is, then that's the only way you can fix it. I used to remember in sales guys to tell me like, oh, it was slow. And so this one we worked in Costco and I said, do me a favor. So people learned like new hires would do it, right? They'd tell me it was slow and I'd say, oh, it was, wow, crazy. It's because Costco keeps account of how many people came in the door, you know?
Yeah.
So I'd say slow. God, that's unbelievable. So do me a favor. Go tell me how many people came through the door in the last 30 minutes. And said, I bet, call me back. And so it was like the walk of shame, you know?
Right.
Walk to how many people came, they call me back. Yeah. 600 people came in the door in the last 30 minutes. Like 600. Oh my gosh. And how many people does it take to sell a phone?
Right.
He's like, 1. I was like, wow. So you get 600 opportunities. How many of those 600 people did you talk to? Oh, I didn't talk to any of them. I was like, right. You don't have an opportunity problem.
Right.
You have an engagement problem.
Yes.
Now I can't help it if it's slow. I literally can do nothing for you. If no one walked in the door, I can't change that because we can't advertise. We don't have the ability. However, I can help you better at engagement. So let's talk about what the actual problem is versus the perceived problem that takes away the responsibility from us.
You find what people need and you feel that need.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to sell, you're providing a service rather than that they need. Everybody needs a cell phone.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, most people do want to ignore you, but if you smile and are polite and you're friendly, then all it takes is that, you know, like sales is such a human connection experience.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to engage with them as a human, then your odds of success are much higher.
You know, I have a very small goal of wanting to change the world, you know, and that starts with
tiny.
Yeah. With a smile, man.
It does.
Eye contact and a smile. Everybody can do that.
It's amazing how, we had a marketing company that my friend and I had created, and we would sell. We were on the concourses of sporting events. Like you'd be at a baseball game and you're walking around. There's people out there with the tape, and everyone hates those people. You know, no one wants to see them. But I would just look at them and smile as big as I could and find some common thing to talk about. You know, like with you, I might say, "What does that brand on your shirt inspire? What's that about?"
Yeah.
And of course, if I said that to you, you would stop and tell me.
Right.
You know, and I'm being friendly and not, you know, pushy. I'm genuinely curious. Like, what is that? And then there's a conversation. You know.
You know, okay, so here it is. You ready, Cody?
Yeah.
You have beautiful eyes, and you know this, yeah?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
I meant to tell you on the first podcast. If
Yeah.
nobody's seen Cody's eyes, Cody's got gorgeous eyes. And
Thank you.
so if I were, that's my approach to you.
Yeah.
And then if you want to engage further with me, then
Yeah.
let's go.
Right.
But hey, Cody, I've got this cell phone.
Oh, never.
So I've got the newest cell phone right here. And hey, this does all these things. I got a cell phone. I'm good. I'm straight. I'm shopping.
Yeah.
But if I come
Don't
up to
bother
you,
me.
bro, your your shoes.
Yeah.
But you do. You got gorgeous eyes and gorgeous shoes. Are you shishing me right now? A double threat. I don't know. You probably triple threat somewhere. But yeah, so everybody wants to be noticed. Everybody wants to feel good. So just do it.
Yeah.
Everybody can do it. And
That's the truth. Everyone can do it. A question for you is, after your second wreck in Mesquite, is that when you really leaned into speaking? Or were you...
Yeah.
It was. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's when you really committed to that
yes.
practice.
So at the second wreck, I'm clean for 8 years. The second wreck, they push the Dilaudid, and there it is. Boom. I'm hooked immediately again. But during that recovery, I'd surrounded myself with the people who gave me the best opportunity for success. And that's my team today. And so they knew my heart when I wanted to be clean. And so I got clean again. And not by my choice. Seriously. For the first time, I made a decision when I was impaired.
Yeah.
I had no idea of the hell that was to come.
Right. When you decided to go off and you had your withdrawals.
Right. The second time, I knew what was coming.
What was ahead of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd weaned down, but then my doctor was just like, look, you're done on this date. I don't care if you hoard all your pills. I don't care what you do, but you're done on this date. And that's what happened. And
did you go through another withdrawal again?
yeah, but nowhere near.
Nowhere near.
Dude, I did my second withdrawals in Lake Powell. So,
oh wow,
in the most beautiful place on the planet, if you ask me, with my family and boating.
That place is sacred, man.
Right? There's something spiritual.
There is something special, yeah.
That's a good place.
It's spiritual about Lake Powell. And so did the second one there. And, you know, my team. I find out Cody's depressed and hasn't left the house in 3 days. Your wife reaches out, hey, Matt, I will come to your house and I'll say, yo, I'm giving you today. You got the rest of today. But tomorrow, 6 a.m., I will be at your house. We're getting shit showered and shaved, and we're getting ready for the day. And you know I'm coming.
Yeah.
And so that's how it went in my life. So the down days are needed too. You can't just take everybody's down days from them. Yeah. You know, they're important too.
Right. Got to have recovery.
As vitally as important as the up days. So I'll give you the day, a day. But after that, we're going to work. And I tell my patients that. I tell everybody that. I'll give you today. I get it. I'll give you the rest of today. But tomorrow at 6 a.m., I'll be on your doorstep and we're getting her done.
I'm curious too. So a big part of your first wreck was like, you were like, I'm walking again.
Yeah.
No matter what, I'm walking. Everyone told you you couldn't.
Yep.
At what point did you know you weren't going to walk again after the second wreck?
This is brilliant. My family and friends, they let me decide. So I had a therapist named Scott Gillespie. And Scott, if you're listening, I love you. I know you don't agree with the cigar, but hey, I love you anyway. And my therapies went from 1 hour in the middle of the afternoon to an hour at his last patient of the day. Yeah. Because then we'd go an hour 15, hour 20.
Go longer if you needed.
Bro, it got up to 3+ hours that this man is giving of himself, taking away from his family. And some months we would measure success with yards. Like I'd walked an extra 40 yards. Yeah. I'm independent with forearm crutches. You know,
This is after the second wreck?
Yeah, after the second wreck. And then it got to the point where I'm grinding, and I'm just not getting, we got down to inches. And so now I'm taking time away from Scott and away from my family for inches. So I was like, okay, I'm okay with walking with forearm crutches. I can grab my wheelchair and put it in the back of my truck. I can shimmy down the side of my truck. I can still practice and go to the gym and ride the bike and get stronger on my own. So but I can go to the gym with my family. So now I still have the same goal, but now I'm just involving other people rather than taking myself and thinking, hey, I need to do this.
Yeah.
And, so there was a day that the dinner was ready and I rolled down the hallway and I'm quiet when I'm rolling and I'm going down to get the kids for dinner. Boy, And as I turn the corner to their bedrooms, I hear the three of them talking. And they're talking about me, and they're talking about how I am their hero, and about how strong Dad is, and how this, that, and the other. And at that point, I realized it's okay.
Yeah, you've already shown him strength.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay that you don't walk again the way you wanted to walk. You know?
Yeah.
And
Because you wanted to walk.
oh, bro, I wanted to play basketball again. And crazy thing is, I thought I was going to do that.
You did. So all this time after the second wreck, you still thought, I'll just do it again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's something. And I just need to be, I had the mindset before that second accident of, I just need to stay fit enough and continue getting stronger, because somebody's going to come out with something. And I'm
be like an
going
advance
to
in
be that
medicine
guy.
and you'll be ready.
Yep.
So how this moment where your kids are sharing what they believe about you, how far after the wreck was that?
Oh, that was years and years. So this was
Okay, so you actively tried to walk for a long time after that second wreck.
for 15 years.
And can you walk now?
No,
With crutches or anything? You have nothing?
nope, can't do it. I will be able to do it. I will be able to do it. I can get from the ground to a standing position with 2 canes, but I can't take a step yet. My right leg just doesn't want to get on my team, man, and I'm pissed at it, but it is what it is. My left leg is super strong, really strong. My right leg just does not want to get on. It just won't wake up yet. But
You know what they call the left foot in the Marine Corps?
Tell me.
The mighty, mighty left foot.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but we start, you put your left boot on first. You put,
Interesting.
Like they just teach you that from boot camp. You step, when you march, it's always your left foot forward. It's called your kill foot.
Really?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
My dad was a Marine. I think we talked about this a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, there was no crying growing up. Nope. There's rub dirt on it.
Yeah.
Let's go. I addressed my dad as sir.
I still do that. I got taught that in sports. I still address people as sir, and I address women as ma'am. And then now when my wife will say, "Don't call her ma'am. That's rude." And I was like, "Since when?" She's like, "No, you can't call them ma'am. They're not old enough." And I was like, "Huh, interesting." Because to me, I'm doing it as a form of respect.
Right.
If I call you ma'am, I'm being respectful.
Right.
But she's like, "Don't call her ma'am. She doesn't want to be called ma'am."
You know what? It's funny. I call men my man. Like if I need something at the store or something,
Yeah.
Yo, my man, will you grab
Yeah.
that for me? Or my man.
Yeah.
So my man. And women, it depends on the environment. But like when I'm at school and one of my students, I'll be like, "Really, sweetheart?" Like, really? So they'll come up with
sweetheart.
some reason. And yeah, sweetheart has a little connotation to it too, but
Well, don't they? I mean, every word does.
Yeah,
so
right,
ma'am
right.
is as safe as it gets, and sir, you can never go wrong.
right.
It's a little different too when you're like, sweetheart.
Right.
Come here, sweetheart. Let me tell you something.
So, as you sit in that chair today,
Yeah.
do you believe you're going to walk again?
Yeah.
And how important is that to you now?
Doesn't even make the top 20.
Okay, so totally different motivating driver than
Right.
before.
If it happens, it happens. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop going to the gym or
Yeah.
stop pedaling the bike or start.
What do you mean when you say pedaling the bike?
So I can pedal a bike.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact,
Because you have enough strength to lift your legs up.
Yeah. So I'll show off with my strong leg first.
Yeah,
So which is my left side.
yeah.
So I can kick out. I can bring that up and over this way and over that way. So that's that.
But you can't feel it.
Well, so with my neuropathy,
Got it.
if you touch me, like right now, my toes are on just singing right now, and which I love, And I know I'm in a safe environment here. You can cut this if you want, but I also have my concealed, and it's on my left ankle because that's so I have some weight.
You're walking around just packing heat.
Oh, always. I'm 24/7.
Really?
I'm in a wheelchair, and I have to protect my family.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that.
So now, because some big bastard comes up to me
Yeah.
All right, take my chair from me or not, whatever you're going to do, think that, and I'm still going to protect my family.
Yeah.
That's,
Did you carry before your accident?
yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, my dad's a Marine, man.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then here's my right leg. And there it is.
Interesting.
So it just won't
cooperate.
And
But you, even with that right leg like that, you can ride a bike.
yeah.
Wow.
So the bike has to have loops on it that I
Yeah.
can shove my feet into.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then we'll bring these little
Because it'll get your momentum.
ties. Yeah. And then at first I would have to push my knees down because my legs wouldn't do it. But I forced my body to do it.
Wow. That's amazing.
For 15 years.
I've got a Peloton at home, and I've never felt worse about not riding it than I do right now. Everyone's like, how do you like that Peloton? I'm like, oh, yeah. That was a COVID purchase,
You know what I'd give to run again? Like okay, Avatar. When
yeah, they hook in and
when he gets out of there and just starts running.
yeah.
Dude, I was thinking about that. I was going to ask you that exact question.
That I would
think
do
of
exactly
Avatar?
Jake Sully did, bro.
Yeah.
I
He's
would.
got his toes in the sand. And yeah.
Oh,
Oh, man. I was thinking about that. I saw a clip of that. And I was like, I'm thinking about Matt right now.
wiggle my toes again in the sand. Feel the grass under my toes.
I
again.
wonder with the advances in virtual reality if in some capacity you're going to experience that before.
I bet so.
You know what I mean? Like
Now
it's
that-
so advanced and it's moving so quickly and it evolves so quickly. Like you can't be that far away from
Right.
that
Well,
in some
You
capacity.
seen Neuralink, Matt?
Yeah.
Does that get your hopes up at all, you think?
Okay. So they've done it on pigs and things like that, and it's working. You know, with
I think
stroke
they've done some human trials.
with
too.
stroke patients and stuff.
Yeah.
Done some good stuff. Here it is. So I am going to be given a choice sooner or later about that. And do I take and have a able body again? But let's be honest. I have suffered a deficit. I have artificial hip. I have got rods and pins and screws and all this stuff. I'm not playing basketball again.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So there will always be some type of deficit with me, even if you jumped my spinal cord and were able to wake up those nerves, and I could wiggle my toes again, which would be absolutely a friggin' amazing. Wiggle your toes. Oh,
Feels pretty good.
man. Oh man. Here's a mind job. So for the first 5 years, my big toe was crossed over my other toe. You look down, they're not, but in your nugget and how to uncross
Oh,
that
my
toe.
gosh.
Oh, there's a mind job for you.
Wow.
So, and then finally that big toe uncrossed in my head and it was all
That
good.
just feels so like, oh my God.
Dude. So, I would have to put who I am today, I would have to mourn this guy in a wheelchair
Yeah.
to be this able-bodied person, either through Neuralink or through whatever. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I love who I am. Without this wheelchair, I'm not here today.
Yeah.
I don't meet y'all.
Yeah, for sure.
And
You're not a speaker.
I'm not a speaker. I don't affect hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And so it's a gift. It really is. It's a gift. And I hate it with every fiber of my being. I do. And if I could change it, man, and
You wouldn't. I don't think you would.
and have an absolute 100% healthy body though, bro.
All the things.
I think
you go
so.
back in
I
time,
think
you
so.
change it?
I really do. No. So if nothing's taken, so I get all, I maintain everything. It doesn't come at a cost.
Yeah.
Other than the wheelchair. Okay. So the cost is the wheelchair.
So not like an edit undo.
Okay, so
Right, not an
all of
edit
your
undo.
experiences you have, but now you can walk in.
And all of a sudden you come over and you're 100% healthy again. I take that deal.
Of course. Of
I
course.
do. I take that deal.
But you don't take it if you lose all of what you gained in those.
No, not even if I had to lose anything.
Well, we talked about that earlier, and I couldn't. I forgot to connect the dots. We were talking about like the things you have to go through, and really that's what I asked people. What's your biggest loss? And they always struggle to answer that because with enough time, every loss is no. Like if I would have asked you, when you're in the hospital, what's your biggest loss? You'd have been like, bro, I'm paralyzed. Of course, that's my biggest loss.
Right.
That answer is so different today because now
Yeah.
that thing that was the most devastating, almost took you to the brink,
Yes.
is a thing that you wouldn't change.
Yeah, I wouldn't change it.
And that's why I think the advice to listeners, and you kind of had alluded to this, but if you're in that moment of loss now,
Yeah.
at some point, I don't know how long it'll be. It might be
Right.
6 months, it might be a year, it might be 6 years, it might be 60 years. But at some point, you will look back and say, oh God, I'm so glad that happened.
Yeah. Because think of all the people you can affect with your loss,
Yeah.
and help.
Oh, and it changes you, it molds you.
Oh yeah, help people through their loss. And so like other spinal cord injuries, like with a physician, I can roll into another spinal cord injuries room and say, let's buck up, little
Yeah,
camper.
your impact has got to be just insurmountable for moments like that.
And like, again, I'll go to the thing that my biggest fear would be the loss of a child.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine, but that would, like with Mason, that has served Mason.
Yeah.
And he realizes I can make an impact on this world by helping other people through their challenges. So financial challenges, everybody goes through financial challenges. I've been bankrupt.
That's the thing too, is people think that when people have certain means, they don't have those struggles anymore. The struggles are just different, right? Like maybe you can afford food, but you over leverage on something else. And so now you're about to lose all of what the perceived means are. So it's like, it doesn't matter what stage you're at in your life. All the people are going through different financial struggles. Even if it looks from the outside, they have 100%. It all. That doesn't mean that they do.
I believe that because I've been poor, I've been wealthy, and money will amplify who you are.
Yeah.
If you're in a bad marriage and all of a sudden you win the lottery, bet you don't get divorced.
Yeah.
It will amplify your dark.
Money's like alcohol in that way. It's gonna show you more of.
If you're depressed,
yeah,
it will make you more depressed. Yep. It's money. Just if you are a giver, you will be able to give on a much bigger level.
Yeah.
On a bigger stage. So my relationship with money is the more money that I can make, the more people I can impact.
Yeah.
So I have a healthy relationship with money.
Well, and the thing is, if you're listening to this and you don't have the money you want, odds are your relationship with it is wrong.
Yes.
It starts there. Because it doesn't matter how much work you do or how successful you become. If your relationship with money isn't right, then you're not going to get to keep it anyways.
If it's at a zero sum, if you're at a zero sum each month, you got to change that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pay yourself first. And this will
Richest
make
man in
sense to a
Babylon.
lot of people. Take 10%, 10% and pay yourself
Well,
first.
that's the whole premise of The Richest Man in Babylon. That is the message.
Oh.
And that's what the whole book is about. It's this old fable of the richest man in Babylon. And so he finds out, well, how did you become the richest man in Babylon? And it's all based on the premise of paying yourself first. And people think like, well, of course I pay myself first. It's like, no, you don't. Your taxes come out of your paycheck before you even get it. So at a very minimum, if you're a W-2 employee, you pay the government first.
Right.
And then usually when you get that money, it's like, okay, now I can pay this mortgage or this rent and this card. Like,
Right.
And you always pay those things before you transfer your money to the savings or wherever it is that you keep your funds. But if you always pay yourself first, you can never be without, because you will always have that money. So if you're listening and you struggle, Richest Man in Babylon is an incredibly easy read and so powerful. And its concept is as simple as it is strong.
Huh. I'm going to read it. I've never read it.
It's an incredible book.
Wow. I've always been the 10% thing my whole life, right?
Yeah, it's amazing that you preach that and don't know. I mean, you've got your LDS background and
Right.
and they're $1 billion organization for a reason, because their members pay them 10% first.
Right. Right. Think about it, people.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
So pay yourself first.
What's funny is when I was a financial advisor, I had this couple who couldn't make ends meet, and I was like, all right, we're going through their finances. I'm like, well, what's this? $700 a month. Like, oh, that's our tithing. I was like, oh, great. Just don't pay that, and we'll get this debt paid off in 6 months. Like, we'll just snowball it and we'll get you out of it.
Right.
And they were like, oh no, we got to pay that. And I was like, what? I was like, no, we can change the course of your life.
Right.
Just give me 6 months. Like, no, that's one we've got to pay. And I was like, I have to imagine you went to your bishop and said, Bishop, you don't need it, and I do. If I do this, I can change the course of my life, and then I'll go right back. I'll even pay back what I shorted you.
Right,
You know,
right,
I couldn't
right.
imagine that the bishop would say, no, you need to struggle.
Well,
Right.
They will.
Yeah.
They'll say no. They'll say no. Your success is on the other side of that. If
And what's amazing is that, like, I know that the
have you-
church would give them money if they needed. Like, if they were like, oh, I can't afford my rent or my mortgage, the church would give it to them. But it's like, why not just empower them to take care of it themselves?
Interesting. Yeah, and I don't know if they do that or not. That's news to me.
they
but
don't. They don't.
yeah.
They don't?
They'll do it if you're extremely like disenfranchised and unable to work. So like in
like damn near
okay.
destitute or something.
or paralysis, right, or something.
Interesting. That to me was absolutely fucking fascinating because I was like, you guys actually make enough money to get yourself out of this hole you've dug. And in a short order, we just got to get rid of this one thing that like you don't actually have to do. You're
Right.
choosing to do. And they were like, nope.
Yeah. But, yeah.
It's really like situational as well. Like if you're in good standing with your bishop and you're in good standing with your ward or congregation, if like one person thinks that you're like degenerate or you're mooching or like one person has a say in the opposite direction, like
I just couldn't believe it because it was hard for me to fathom that their bishop wouldn't be supportive of that. Right. Like, oh yeah, we're going to help.
Right.
We're going to help these people like improve the quality of their lives. And maybe they would have, I don't know. Cause they said they wouldn't even ask.
Right.
But it was just that to me as an outsider
it's a fantastic
was
story.
fascinating.
That's fascinating to me.
And that's when I decided I don't want to be a financial advisor.
We should unpack that later.
Well, because you
Yeah.
can't, what am I going to do? You know? And also the thing with financial advising is you're there to help them and you only make money if you're able to help them. Right. So it's not like if I come and make a plan for you, you're not paying me for my time. I'm only paid if what we're doing is creating wealth for you.
Got you.
And so you'd go sit down with people and you'd be like, well, what do you need? And they'd tell you. And then you'd come back and you'd say, here you go. And they'd say, yeah, we're not ready. And it's like, oh, well, you're never going to be ready, but you just said this is what you want. And if what you want is this, then this is what you have to do.
Right.
It's just math.
Right.
It's not even my opinion. It's mathematically accurate. Then in order to have the thing that you want, you have to do this thing.
Right.
And so I was just like, I did not enjoy that profession.
Dude, really?
No, I loved helping people. And that's what got me started is like, I'd have employees who would be like, hey, we're struggling. Can you help? Like, will you look at our finances? Will you help? And I was like, absolutely. Cause I love it. I love helping people with that. But then once like there was an ask at the end of it, right? Cause I was always doing that for free for the greater good.
Right.
But then once now I had an ask associated with that amount of work and,
Right.
and the answer was very frequently no. And no for the wrong reasons. Not like, no, I think there's a better product out there. Or no, I don't think you're trust. Because I mean, these people have given me all of their finances. I know how much money is on their checking account, their savings account, their debt, like everything is unturned. So I know it all. So it's not a matter of trust because you don't get that information without trust.
Right.
So trust is already solved and taken care of. So now it's just their unwillingness to make a sacrifice or to risk anything for the future that they said that they wanted. It's probably like being a trainer. People come to you and say like, I want to be this. And then they say they can't make it to the gym or they want to eat like shit or whatever. And it's like, okay, so you don't really want that thing you said.
You know, and that's the crazy thing too, is like I see these speakers, these motivational speakers, and they're not in shape. And
I know.
dude, you can't buy a chiseled body. You can't. That takes discipline and motivation. You know, they say motivation is fleeting, and it is. But it's something you need. I mean, I took a shower this morning. Guess what? I'm going to need to take a shower again tonight.
Yeah.
You know, so if you want to take motivation as a shower, we all, okay, but now become disciplined. What are your non-negotiables?
Well, yeah, I even told my wife that. I said, I'm going to do 75 hard at the beginning of the year. And I said, I've got to look better because someone needs to look at me and be able to decide, yes, he knows what he's talking about or not. And they will.
Right.
Whether or not they vocalize it. Like, I need someone to look at me and say, I don't know what he's selling, but I'm buying.
Right.
Because if I want to be a good speaker, then they need to look at me and know that person isn't full of shit.
Dude, I'm telling you, you're a chiseled 6-pack buck 85 with those eyes. You kidding me?
Well, and
Game
Andy, Andy Elliott. Do you know who Andy Elliott is?
No.
He's this crazy sales motivator, and you can't work for him unless you have a 6-pack.
Really?
Yep. And people think like that's crazy or whatever. But ultimately, like if you have the dedication, perseverance to have a 6-pack, then of course you're going to be successful. And like, so we'll bring a guy up on stage and he'll say, hey, take your shirt off for me. And the guy doesn't want to, you know, like a regular dude like me. And he does. And he's like, are you proud of that? And he was like, no. And he's like, well, come back to me in 6 months. And if you have a 6-pack, I'll give you 10 grand. And he's like, you are the model for your kids. So if you're not proud of what you look like, what kind of model are you? Yeah. And that's obviously the extreme. I'm not advocating that everyone needs to have a 6-pack, but it is interesting. Like you pull him up there, you pull his shirt off and he's naked and all of a sudden it's like, I feel shitty, but we don't feel shitty enough when we're at home having that bag of M&Ms.
Right.
And no one else is looking, so.
Right. Just have the discipline to cut out. Okay. So I was 230 pounds, believe it or not, in a chair at this point. And
what do you weigh now for perspective?
$165, $170.
Oh, wow. So a significant amount of weight from what you have right now.
And I ate the elephant one bite at a time. First, I stopped going to Swig. And I've got friends who have stock in Swig. Okay. So, and love me a dirty Dr. Pepper, coconut cream. Get it done with the raspberry puree. Whew. So cut out Swig. Then it dropped like 17 pounds.
Just from cutting out
in a month, just from cutting out soda. Okay,
so
cut out all soda.
Out.
Yeah. Then chips. I still have bread and all that kind of stuff. But I cut out Doritos, Cool Ranch chips, and even I cut out the chips. Lost some more weight. Now you're getting some traction. All right. What I'm going to do next is cut out dairy. Because look at
dairy's a killer, man. Dairy's not good.
Look how much sugar is in milk.
Yeah.
Go. You think a soda has a lot of sugar in it? Go and look at your milk bottle and how many servings are in there and how many grams of sugar in per serving. Damn near a soda.
Well, and also dairy has a very addictive trait to it, right? Like we can eat cheese.
Yeah.
That's why we love pizza,
Yeah.
It's so good.
So I just ate the elephant one bite at a time.
So you just started by cutting things out.
Mm-hmm. And then just didn't go back to it.
So what's your diet like now?
So I've been doing this meat eater.
Carnivore?
The carnivore diet.
Yeah, I want to do that. Yeah. That's been on my agenda.
I've been on it for a year.
It's badass, right?
Life-changing diet, man. It's the same thing. Just one bite of the elephant at a time. I love that analogy. But I started just a year ago. Well, it's been like 2 years since I started by reducing. I'm on the road selling. I'm doing stuff. I'm like, hey,
it's hard to have a healthy diet when that's your lifestyle.
It is, yeah. So the same thing. You just gradual change. So like, hey, no more soda.
Yeah.
But I'd still go get some McDonald's on the road. Like I'm on the road. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, if I change all at once, like I'm gonna be back in the same.
You're gonna fail.
Oh, man.
So rather than a diet, it's a life. It's just lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
And the carnivore diet's badass because you can still have cheat. You can have anything that swims, flies, or walks, you can eat it, and anything that comes out of those things. So eggs, cheese, dairy, things like that. So the carnivore diet, bro, you can mess up a lot of things on the carnivore diet. But your starches, you're getting rid of your starches.
Yeah, and your sugars, really.
And your sugars, yeah. So, and it's not the paleo. It's it's kind of but bacon. You can go mess up some bacon. Who doesn't love bacon?
It doesn't I was hearing. I think carbohydrates, right? Like carbs, they actually turn into sugar.
Yep.
Like when they ferment in your gut.
Yep.
And they metabolize as sugar.
Well, and even fruit is sugar, and so then it still makes you want sugar.
So refined sugar, which is in candy and things like that, your body doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So it's like, what the hell is that? Oh, we're just going to go put it over here on your love handles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so your body doesn't, and it doesn't make you full. Go ahead and mess up sugar. Just start eating sugar. You will never get full. Ever.
I know,
and
yeah.
Your body won't know what to do with it.
I did this thing called Wild Fit. He taught us about the different hungers we experience, and our body doesn't know the difference, right? And so you could be eating chips and it's actually making you dehydrated, and so your body's telling you you're thirsty, but we only know it as hunger.
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh, I need to eat more. But really it's like you just need to drink a couple glasses of water and you'd be satiated.
Yeah.
But we can't tell the difference. We are now, I think, at another hour and a half about Blake. What are we at?
Hell?
The recording's been going for 2 hours.
Oh my hell. This is this is too easy, man.
Back to getting back to our families. It's probably appropriate to wrap this thing up. But as we do, Matt, well, first off, thank you so much
thanks for having me.
You've taken a lot of time out of your day to come do this. I really appreciate it. And Blake being such a gracious host and letting us come back and
thank you for the opportunity, Blake.
Your whiskey and cigars with us. I need to go get some gummy bears for sure. But thank you, Blake, for doing that. But Matt, anything you want to leave the listeners with?
You know, I would love a follow on Instagram if you need something inspiring, something to motivate, something to pick you up and get going.
Do you have a YouTube too?
I do have YouTube. I just shipped everything over to my YouTube channel. So just look me up, Matt Blanchard.
It's amazing how far that goes when you're in the space that we're in. We're trying to do something like one follows, like,
yeah.
It's like, just give it. It's easy.
So I'm a micro influencer right now with like 3,000 followers.
Attaboy.
You know? So, and then today's first step, my nonprofit. Let's go change lives. We help anybody who's suffered a deficit, spinal cord injury, amputee, TBI, you name it. We will help you out.
Love it.
So yeah, donate to today's first step. Let me know. Hit me up. If somebody needs help out there, I don't know. You've got to let me know, and I will help. I will help you. You have my word, and my word is my bond. So let me know. Hit me up in the DMs. Hit me if you know somebody who needs help. Hit me up. I don't know if you don't let me know. So let me know, and let's change the world.
I love that. Well, I will, again, put all of those links in the show notes. So if you're listening, you're watching, however you're consuming this media, all the links are there. Go click on that. Do Matt a favor and give him a follow. Matt, thank you so much.
Thanks, brother.